I had a very bad camera.
Great.
I'm
So
putting
wonderful. Thank you so much, Bhargav. I had the opportunity to see Bokshi, so thank you very much. It's
Thank
quite
you.
intense. And I think a lot of work that obviously went into it in terms of the language that you recreated,
Correct.
in terms of the rituals, the folk stories, obviously. One, talk a bit about why you chose the story or the story chose you, and the work that went into recreating these folk tales and the rituals and the language.
Right. So as a filmmaker, I've been trying to explore the horror and fantasy genres. So previously, I've made two short films called The Black Cat and my first short was called Awakenings. So these two are so Awakenings was a pure, a horror drama film. And The Black Cat was more of a children's fantasy, which was based on a Ruskin-born story. So I wanted to further my, craft as a film director and try to explore the genre more in a longer format. So initially, I had this idea in mind that I would want to explore a group of students who go on this excursion to somewhere in the Northeast, and they encounter a very unusual adventure. So that was in my mind. And why that was in my mind? Because so I have grown up in a boarding school called the Assam Valley School, in which is located in Sonitpur in Assam. So every year in this school, we were sent on expeditions. And mostly, we went to Arunachal Pradesh or say Sikkim and Meghalaya. So when I had this when this germ of this idea came into my mind, I went to meet my writer Harsh Vaibhav, who is also making his debut with this film. So by mistake, I mentioned to him that so basically I had remembered, I had recalled this particular expedition probably when I was in class 7, where we actually went to this place called Dirang in Arunachal Pradesh, and we had
Nirang.
camped Dirang, yes. So we had camped next to this cremation ground by the river.
Oh,
So that was one of the most unique, unique trips till date for me. And during this, we spent around 10 days in this area and we trekked. I think we had to trek for a cumulative total of 80 kilometers during this
wow.
expedition. And during one of these days, a group of the students, they had got lost and they returned very late to the campsite. So I really, yeah. So this this very eerie feeling, which was filled with so much dread and you know uh, anticipation of what might happen. And we also saw this cremation happening right when we were camping. And being, a horror aficionado, I wanted to bring this feeling into a film which I would make. So when I met the writer Harsh, by mistake, it was again like a slip of my memory. I told him this expedition happened in Sikkim and not in Arunachal Pradesh.
Arunachal. Right.
Right. So we ended up going to Sikkim, and
Right.
naturally, we actually. So firstly, when we are, researching about what can be done within the geography of Sikkim and the culture and traditions there, we got attracted to the North Sikkim area. And why so? Because the north part of Sikkim is home to this tribe called Lepcha, the Lepchas, and the government actually, it's basically a protected area where the Lepcha culture and their traditions are protected by the government.
Right.
So
Right.
when we went to North Sikkim, it was for me, it was like, when you like, for example, when you pass like a certain border, so we crossed a certain bridge which made us
Right.
enter into North Sikkim. I felt like I was entering into a different portal, a different world. It felt
Right.
very surrealistic and absolutely otherworldly. It felt like, a part of our country which was so unexposed, and the traditions and everything was so different and pristine and peaceful. So me and the writer, we ended up staying there for almost 2 months, and our research
Oh,
began there, and that's how the film, came into being. So if I would have mentioned to Harsh that my
it had been
expedition,
in Arunachal, yeah.
yeah, so the Bokshi would have been probably not Bokshi. It would have been something
Right.
else, right?
But tell me, how did you get access to the tribe? Since you say that it's protected, did you need a special permit, or how did
Not
that
really.
happen?
No, we don't need a special permit to go to that region. Although, if you want to explore further in North Sikkim, there are some, again, like protected lakes higher up in that area. Then you need permission from the government. Like how, for example, when you visit Arunachal, you need the inner line.
Arunachal, you need a special permit,
Correct.
inner line permit, right?
Yes. But we got lucky with North Sikkim because, again, thanks to the internet, I was, trying to figure out whom to contact,
Right.
to get authentic information and access to, certain people there. So, I mean, I just randomly Google, and this amazing guy called Gyatso Lepcha, who is an
Ah,
activist for the river Tista. He
right.
also owns a homestay called Mayalyang Homestay in Zongu. So I sent him a message on Facebook, like introducing myself as a filmmaker and my interest
Right.
in exploring a film there. And he was most generous enough to reply back to me, and we ended up going to his homestay, staying with him, and with his with the people he knows personally, and that's how he was actually the first point of contact who introduced us to a lot of Sikkimese people who are working towards, say, basically towards conservation of the environment. So, and I
Right.
think that is one of the main reasons why the theme of ecology in
Yeah,
Bokshi
it's so
takes,
powerful.
right, it takes center stage.
Right. So, what exactly does Gyatso Lepcha do? You were saying what does his activism focus on?
So his main as a social activist, he protests against the building of dams on
Ah,
Tista, on the river Tista. So he's
hmm.
actively involved in this, and the homestay he runs, it's quite popular with. It's like a hidden gem, so it's quite popular with the more discerning travelers. So he's a
Right.
known figure in Sikkim and very respected.
Hmm. Right. So
Right.
the Marai tribe actually exists, or it's based on the Lepcha tribe?
Very loosely based. So we had to
Ah,
create a fictional tribe to avoid any kind of controversy, or just because we are
right.
adapting folk tales and also adapting customs.
Right.
But what we did was, after our script was ready, and we had like a proper note on how we are creating this tribe and why we are doing so. So we ran the script and the notes through scholars in Sikkim.
Okay.
So that we wanted to make sure that what we are trying to represent is as authentic as possible.
Right. So, were there things that they told you to avoid, which you were mindful of, or did the script pretty much,
Right.
was it pretty much cleared by them as it was?
Uh, yeah, I think it was clear that at the first reading, we didn't really have any objection from anyone as such. And I think this happened because we spent considerable amount of time, I think almost like a year and a half in
Right.
visiting Sikkim and researching and just meeting people and talking about how they live their lives and their culture and traditions.
Right. Recently, the last hour was shot in Sikkim as
Right.
well.
Correct.
You probably saw it as well,
Yes.
right? Suddenly, Sikkim has sort of, become a little more open to the idea of its culture and of its sort of world to be opened up to the rest of India.
Right.
So is that something that you see happening as well? But I hope not in large doses and with Bollywood crews landing up to shoot songs and all there.
Right. Of course. I mean, see, Sikkim is firstly a very film-friendly state.
Right.
Not only Sikkim, I mean, even the other parts of Northeast. I'm just leaving
Yeah.
aside Assam because Assam is more accessible to,
Assam is more accessible,
correct.
yes.
Yeah. So, but what people are a little concerned about when, like, I mean, so-called outsiders come to
Yeah.
tell stories
For
from
instance, Beria was shot in Zero in
Arunachal.
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 Yeah,
Correct.
again,
Yes.
a very protected area, and therefore
Correct.
also I mean, visually it's not something that you've seen before,
Very
you know?
unique. Yes. So
Yeah,
what people are, I mean, they're very, I mean, they want us to be careful in how we are depicting,
yeah,
their
right.
everyday life or just their socio-cultural, elements, what we might pick up. And of course,
Yeah,
for me, because I'm actually Assamese, I'm from Assam.
mm,
So for
right,
me specifically, being a Northeasterner, uh, I took this up as a big responsibility that what
it's
I do in this
yeah,
region has to be portrayed in the correct manner. And of course,
right,
because I was adapting, that is why we made sure, we ran the script, and even I've showed the film to one or two people from there. Uh,
right.
and yeah, I mean, just to because like as someone from Northeast, and probably I'll be speaking for the larger population
Yeah,
from our side. We're so underrepresented in the mainstream,
yeah,
so mainstream media, films and media. Uh, so if a filmmaker like me who's coming from the Northeast, it becomes it becomes a duty for me to represent my region uh,
right,
in the absolute correct as much as possible. Yeah.
right, right. And yet you have to show the clash, literally, of
Right.
one way of thinking, which is not necessarily modern,
Mm.
when you have the grandmother, and
Right.
the more traditional folk sort of culture that you
Correct.
portray here. And there is also the modern way of living and this culture. So there are many kinds of clashes there. And
Right.
young people, and this whole idea that you cannot uh, take outside things into the forest.
Yes.
When he eats that packet of chips or whatever, you see
Yeah.
those.
Actually, it's YY. Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Right.
yeah, bye. And God, that was quite scary. But so there are many kinds of conflicts and many
Mm.
kinds of sort of face-offs happening. So you have to be mindful of all kinds of things,
Of
because you
course.
also cannot caricature
Yeah.
the grandmother's perception.
Right.
She is also coming from a particular place.
Mm.
It may not be correct, but that is the way of
I
thinking
mean,
of a
it's her
lot of
belief.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a belief. So you have to be careful of so many different kinds of things. Like when the girl says, "Oh, all boarding schools are based on some graveyard or the
They
other." So
built
what's the
on,
big,
yeah.
you know?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's like the most common story in our country.
yeah. So there's so many different levels of conflicts, and there's so many different levels of clashes being
Right.
shown. So I wonder, I mean, as a young person, it's a hell of a lot of responsibility to take on.
Yeah, but I mean, like the way, say, I have been brought up, the writer has been brought up. Um, I mean, like we have been, we are aware about, the clashes you're talking about, and the voice, the kind of voice we wanted to have also through this film, and of course, like we wanted to bring out certain, like topics and uh, I won't call it social messaging, but like things which are relevant to our, modern
Yeah,
society through the film. But what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to be preachy.
yeah,
Yeah, so we made sure that whatever we wanted to say through the film, through the narrative, kind of happened as naturally as possible. through various characters or situations. And it was very important for me, and also the writer, to highlight these issues, because firstly, we didn't want to make a just a generic horror film. We wanted the narrative to have more weight and more meaning, which can probably also appeal to an audience who may not be so like open to the idea of watching a horror film, because there are many people who don't watch horror films,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So, and why so? Because actually, there's a part in the film, in the later parts, where Shalini, the teacher,
Ah, the
talks about
teacher.
the feeling of fear, which is one of the most
Right.
primal, aspects of us as human beings. We are afraid to feel fear. So probably
Yeah.
many of us don't like watching horror films. So yeah, but coming back to your point, we wanted to highlight certain issues and topics which are relevant to the place where the film is set in, but not in a preachy manner. And also, apart from so again, like the particular thing you've mentioned about, don't take anything from the forest, or don't that is a very we have there's an interesting story behind that. So we also had gone to Meghalaya to do a little research about uh, certain other things, not directly related to the film, but we wanted to get an overall feel of how we might want to portray certain things in the film. So there is this sacred forest, probably an hour's drive from Shillong. I'm forgetting the name of the forest, but so we had taken a guide to explore the forest. So this particular dialogue was actually said by this particular guide.
Oh, acha, acha.
Right. And these like these kind of things also apply to Sikkim or Arunachal Pradesh, where they believe the environment, nature to be, the spiritual
Yeah.
guardian.
Right.
Yeah, and they practice animism. So, the nature plays a
Right.
very big role in their day-to-day life. So
Right.
yeah,
Uh,
there are
yeah.
various mhm.
But also, while you're talking about horror not being something that, people like to watch much of,
Right.
but at the same time, in mainstream Hindi cinema, there's been a huge outcrop of
Yes.
horror comedies, as they're called. In fact, Pedia, Stree, Stree
Right.
2, Munja, which have done very well. So,
Correct.
what do you ascribe that to? Because
I
traditionally,
think,
it's not a
right.
genre that did very well. It was always considered B movies and
B
Ramsay
movies,
Brothers
yes.
kind of thing.
Correct. I think, I mean, again, like I'll go back to that, uh, to this particular aspect of, if say a film is a pure horror film,
Yeah,
uh, you might have a more limited audience, because not everyone likes to experience the feeling of fear.
right,
But
right.
because you're bringing in the aspect of comedy, you're making it
Yeah,
more appealing and more accessible, and possibly bringing down the effect of horror. So if you look at
right,
the recent successes of Hindi films we've had, I mean the horror comedies, uh, the horror aspect is kind of so, I mean, if not dumbed down, but it's not so overpowering as the comic aspect of the
right.
films. So it's comedy overpowering horror, right? Uh, but say if I go on to make a horror comedy, which I would love to, and in fact, my next script is a horror comedy. I would want to achieve a balance between the two genres, because I think this is a very difficult genre to firstly attempt,
Yeah,
because you have to bring the comedy out of the horror, right? Which is like two
right.
polar opposite genres. Uh, so yeah, I think because of the comedy, people are probably more open to these kind of films, and they're more popular, I believe, according to my
Right,
understanding. Yes.
right. Bhargav, tell me a little about yourself. Are you, you said you're from Assam. Are you a trained
Yes.
filmmaker? Tell me a little about yourself.
So like I said, I grew up in a boarding school in Assam, and then I went to pursue a degree in biology in Manchester University. But then
Right.
I always had this, inclination towards films, and I mean, it was Bollywood back then because when we grew up, we didn't have access to so much internet, or
Yeah.
so I grew up as a big fan of Sanjay Leela Bhansali or Ashutosh Gowarikar, um, Rakesh Omprakash Mehra. So after Manchester, I decided that I need to do something about what I really want to do in life, and of course, I love biology, and I could have pursued a career in the biological science as well, but I think filmmaking had a bigger calling for me. And just then, when I was about to graduate from Manchester, I got to know about Whistling Woods in Mumbai, which is Mr. Subhash
Yeah.
Guy's.
Subhash Kaya.
Yes. So I joined Whistling Woods. But unfortunately, I did not complete the course because, being my impulsive self, I teamed up with this batchmate of mine, and we started making a film called Kafiru Ki Namaz, which I was producing. And then I dropped out, I think, at the end of first year. First year, I dropped out and I completed the film. But then I thought, what am I doing? I came here to become a director, so I should go back, to my to uh, to my actual aspiration, right? I mean, I didn't come here to become a producer. So then I made the short films, which I told you about,
Oh,
Awakenings and Black Cat, and yeah. So I've and my Bokshi is my first feature as a director, and it's a completely independently produced film, which I would call a true blue indie from horror fantasy indie from India.
right. And how did you finance it, Bhargav?
So this is personally funded. It was quite
Right.
difficult. I mean, the way, like of course, it's a very ambitious film, in not only in terms of its narrative, but also in terms of its scope of production.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot
yeah,
of VFX and the production design is really good.
right. Thank you. So
Yeah.
there's actually not a lot of VFX, which might feel like I would
Oh,
call
it
it,
looks like it.
yeah, I would call it invisible
So that's
VFX.
great. Ah,
Yes, so I wanted to reduce the amount of VFX used in the film.
yeah.
I prefer more practical effects, to be used. As a genre filmmaker, I like practical effects. So yeah, and we shot the entire film on location. There's nothing which had been shot inside a studio, or like a set which we created from scratch. So it was a difficult production to execute. But again, I mean, thanks to my family who have really backed me so much and have believed in me. And of course, like I said, we ran into issues, right? Like we had to break the filming schedule into three parts. Uh, like the first part was shot over around 35 days, and we had to wait another year to come back and shoot the remaining portions. And the reason was because we ran out of money. So we had to, somehow recoup the investment required to complete the film. Yeah, I mean, I think my family has sacrificed a lot for this film, and I'm just happy, and that I can take the film to a platform like Rotterdam now, and that makes me really uh, yeah, happy. Not for if not for me, for my family, so who have really stood by me while during the making of this film.
May I ask how much it cost?
Uh, I mean that I will eventually probably reveal, but I would like to keep
But
that,
yeah.
yeah, for now.
And your
But
casting? Yeah.
I can say that it is a slightly expensive
Right.
independent film. Yes, yeah.
Where did you base the school?
Sorry, my school.
No, where did you base the school in the film?
Okay.
Where was that?
Uh, right. So actually, the in the script, the school is my boarding school,
Ah,
which is the
yeah,
Assam Valley School in Tejpur, Assam.
right.
So I've shot major portions of the school at my school,
Oh,
and we
acha. Did they
right,
give
yes,
permission?
yeah. I mean, and they let me shoot free of charge. So I mean,
Oh, that's very nice.
that was really nice of them. And but we had to combine another school to complete the bungalow portions, which is Dr. Graham's in Kalimpong.
Oh, okay. Right.
Right. But we also have another school, which is the in the initial portions of the film, which is the Catholic school, that is St. Paul's in Darjeeling.
So three different schools.
Three schools, yeah. I think I'm still a boarding school kid at heart, so I like just being in that zone.
Environment. And you talked about your co-writer. Is he also from Assam?
Oh no, he's from Patna.
Acha. But
Yes.
he seems to have a sense of uh, the Northeast.
Yes. So he's actually the writer. I haven't written the film. He's the main,
Acha.
the sole writer of the film. So Harsh, he's from Patna, but he has uh, he's aware of, I mean, he has traveled to these regions, and also because of the proximity to say the Nepal border, and generally I think Harsh is a very well-read person. So it was very easy for me to work with him on this particular script, and I could trust him with, like writing, because it's there are many sensitive aspects in the script,
Yeah,
right? I could trust him with that.
right. How did you cast Mansi?
Mansi, okay, so that's again another thanks to the power of internet. So when I had started the casting process, I didn't have a casting director on board. Uh, I think I was watching, I was watching Suitable Boy on Netflix.
Ah, that's right. She's in it.
Right. So as soon as I saw her in the series, her face got stuck to me, and I'm like,
Ah,
this is that character,
right.
I couldn't think of anyone else. So I reached out to her on Instagram, and I happened to, which I didn't know back then, reach out to her on a birthday when she was in Kashmir celebrating her birthday with her
Oh,
family. So she read my message and we got on a call, and just worked out because, like, the energies and the vibe the synergy was really beautiful when we spoke,
right.
uh, and this being a feminist narrative, I think she could identify with the central theme and what her character is very deeply. So that's how I ended up casting her. And I mean, thank God I watched Suitable Boy because I think she's a perfect fit for this role.
She's wonderful. Yeah. And as is Shalini, as is the young girl.
Anahita, correct. Yeah.
Anahita, sorry. I'm
Yes.
sorry. How did
Right.
you get Anahita?
So Anahita is played by someone called Prasanna Bisht. She was cast through my casting director, Sakshi Gulati. I mean, we auditioned a couple of actors, and she was really promising, and I really liked what she did. And we had like further auditions with her. So Bokshi was supposed to be her debut film as an actor, but because we took time to shoot the film because of budget issues and production constraints, so she ended up acting in another film called Farre, which was produced by Salman Khan. So that became her debut film, but Bokshi possibly will be her first film as a lead.
Wonderful, Bhargav. I wish you all the best. And it's
Thank you so
really
much.
a very intense film, and I really enjoyed it. It really takes you deep into that world, and the forest almost comes alive. So it's really very well done. Thank you so much. I wish you all the
Thank you so
best.
much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.
Thank